religion and government, advocating a scientific and humanistic viewpoint, and improving human society. Find out more about us on the web at arfreethinkers.org, or, and the most reliable way, is to get to know the members by coming to our other events. Our calendar is on meetup.com, and we'll go through the things for the next month toward the end of our presentation here. If you want to go to Meetup and find us, just search for Arkansas Society of Free Thinkers. The Free Thought of the Day is a segment of our monthly program in which we look at a quote, an idea, or a concept that appeals to us as free thinkers. I picked today's concept because it involves medicine. Hopefully Betsy will do better than this did. It comes from one of America's greatest writers and probably our premier humorist. It was Mark Twain, and he said, "Be careful of reading health books. You might die of a misprint." The Skeptical Sidebar is a portion of our meeting that addresses pseudoscience, alternative facts, fake news, conspiracy theories, misinformation, and challenges to conventional wisdom. Chris Barecki will present today's Skeptical Sidebar. Maybe I'm presenting.
Thank you, Brian. So a while back, I saw a news headline where an activist from Turning Point USA had shared a video on Twitter where the President of the United States announced that we were going to reinstate the draft for men and women immediately, and God bless Ukraine. So I actually had to dig a long time to find this video. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see if it was any good. And here's what I found. I found this mainstream media source, KDWA, and they have a long, minute and a half here. I won't make you watch all through it, but a lot of people obviously were really concerned that, oh my gosh, this means that we're on the verge of World War III and this and that, and there's so many things. And here's the video. Does this look very convincing to you? I guess I've got the sound off here.
War. We're sending them to freedom. White House approves this. God bless Ukraine.
Oh, yes, perfect.
Okay, and they do a pretty decent job debunking this with, official sources, with everything else. But you notice that it was just like all we did was blur the face and mix up the audio, cut words from one speech and splice them in together where it says something else. That's obvious. We can all spot that, right? Well, the thing is that the real version of a deep fake is not that badly done. What you're seeing here is a media outlet that doesn't want to be responsible for perpetuating a deep fake. So they're showing a really kind of scrambled up, kind of, quality reduced version of it to make sure that somebody doesn't grab their screenshot and say, look, the new official news source is now reporting on this. They'll just grab that one snippet out of context, and then that goes all over Twitter. So they have to kind of protect their own reputation here and not become part of the problem, not become one of the people disseminating this and forwarding it on. What do? They make the video really grainy, or share a copy of a version of the video that's already grainy or something like that. And so the problem with doing this, I understand why they do it, but the problem is that their audience now thinks that deep fakes are easy to spot. The audience now thinks they can spot a deep fake because it'll be blurry like that, or the mouth won't move right, or the eyes will go off in different directions and never blink, or whatever, or they'll have 6 fingers. The problem is a lot of these little, heuristics that we use to justify how we could spot a deep fake and not be tricked, those are going away. And I want to show you a much better deep fake done with, a little bit more quality. We'll start over there.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
Oh, wow.
So, what if that video of Joe Biden talking in front of the podium was at this quality level? What if there was nothing discernible wrong with it that you could find? What if every hair on the head was in the right spot, every mole, every freckle, every nuance? What if the nonverbal behaviors were right? I can spot a couple things wrong with this video. It was obviously trained based on a younger Morgan Freeman who was faster and more active in his speech and gestures and things like that. But you'll notice that they've improved. You can now have the subject turn their head, nod, do things like that. It used to be just kind of like hold the head still and make the face talk. But things are improving so much faster that, this kind of thing would be much harder to find the little detail that's wrong with it. Here's the kicker. This was uploaded 2 years ago. This is 2-year-old technology. This is before the latest line of NVIDIA processors for AI. This is before 2 whole years of programming in the hottest area of IT, where they're throwing hundreds of billions of dollars. So this is the old tech. This is the antique. This is antique, to make it 100% clear. So what's new? What's new coming out? Microsoft is helpfully creating a type of equipment that can create realistic deepfakes using a single photo and 1 audio track. In this presentation, I'm giving you more content than they would need to create that Morgan Freeman video of me doing or saying anything. So this is now up to the year 2024. Our old methods of figuring out what's real and what's fake are irrelevant. You're never going to spot the deepfakes anymore. I want you to understand that, accept it deep into your heart. No matter how good you are at forensics, you're not going to find it. And that also means that the journalists you trust aren't going to be able to find it. That also means that there is no reliability to video or audio anymore. That era has passed. The era back when anything caught on film, chemical film usually, was probably real and very hard to fake, is over with. And we need to accept that and make our decisions in a different way. Now, a lot of the deepfakes we've seen so far have been, something really startling. Joe Biden announcing the draft for all men and women to go fight in Ukraine. Okay, well, maybe we could fall back on saying, okay, if it's really startling and outside of our realm of what's the norm, our understanding of what's typical, then maybe we'll spot it that way. I don't think that's a reliable thing either, because what you're going to see is more deepfakes about little things, like they'll make a politician mispronounce a word. Remember when Dan Quayle misspelled potato and destroyed his attempt to become a president? This is going to be worse, and they're going to be addressing people's competency, their mental strength. What are you going to think one day when some journalist with their own camera angle, just with a phone at a political rally, catches a politician stepping off the stage mumbling, "These voters must be stupid"? Would you believe that? Because it's easily fakeable. And the journalist over here with a different camera angle, and maybe didn't pick it up, they can't refute it. There's no direct evidence it didn't happen. And so it's going to be really hard to tell the truth. What I recommend is that if you come across in your web browsing a really good deep fake, like this Morgan Freeman one that's antique, there's going to be a lot more out there. If you find a really good one, learn from it. Seek them out. Seek these things out, because you're not going to intuitively believe that you can't tell the difference. You've got to really convince yourself that you do not know. Then, for these 2 people the obvious harmless deep fakes, like the Morgan Freeman one, so that you can inoculate others. That's what we're doing, is that we have to inoculate people before it becomes too late, before people go off on tangents believing whatever the next extremely high quality video is. Because the mainstream media, as you've seen, is unable to inoculate people because they don't want to be part of the problem forwarding this stuff along. And at a bare minimum, of course, don't be the person that forwards the stuff along. Don't be the person that forwards the politicized ones that were potentially made in a Russian laboratory somewhere, or that were made by some activist somewhere. You can still get away with this. This is not illegal to slander people in this way or to misrepresent what they're saying. It's considered, the same thing as a political cartoon right now in the United States culture. Other cultures are kind of cracking down on this sort of stuff, and I think ours is going to end up doing that too, and that's going to raise a lot of free speech concerns. But I think that with deepfakes, the intent is obviously to deceive, and we need to get the word out as soon as possible to everyone we know that there's stuff out there that you will not spot the clue. They don't have 6 fingers, they can blink, the gestures are natural, and whatever little detail you pick up that you can say, aha, that's it, that's the sign it's a fake, that's going away quickly if it hasn't already. So, think a little harder and don't just hit share as soon as you see World War III is started. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Talk to us if you would like to deliver the free thought, skeptical sidebar, or share a member story. We know you have something to share. We want to hear from you. It's really easy, and we're really a gentle audience, to be honest with you. The Arkansas Society of Freethinkers is a diverse organization with members who represent a wide range of opinions. We invite speakers who we think will be interesting and make us think. Today, our featured speaker is Betsy Jones. I met Betsy when her maternal grandparents' house flooded because they were near a creek in North Little Rock. I met her mother and her sister and eventually her father and her brother. Everyone was still living in Mom and Dad's home at the time, and I think Jenny was still in high school at the time. No, in fact, I know she was in band. So we've known each other for a while. She is a career and technical teacher at North Little Rock High School COE. She can explain to you what COE is. I looked it up and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. She teaches medical and professional classes, foundations of healthcare, human anatomy and physiology, and first responder. She graduated from the University of Central Arkansas with a BS in clinical laboratory science and worked as a clinical laboratory scientist for Baptist Health. Betsy will be speaking today about women in medical history. Please welcome Betsy Jones.
I've been a public school teacher first for Little Rock School District and for the past 20 some odd years for North Little Rock. And I love teaching kids. I really love being a public school teacher, even if it really is inner city high school science. Which is a little bit more challenging, but I love the kids anyways. So thank you for being here. I know they want me over here where they can hear me better, but before I delve into this, I brought some books from my own collection. If you want to look at them afterwards, maybe take a picture of the cover. Got Eve, which is a new book by Kat Bohannon about the anatomy and physiology of women, which, it has not been explored near as much as it should be. In case you women didn't know, we're just men with extra parts. Dr. Bohannon takes issue with that. I've also got this book that I recently obtained, Medicine Women, Curanderas, and Women Doctors, Women in Science. an old standby. The women healers, and witches, midwives, and nurses. Which from some people's perspective are all one and the same. All right, so first question for you guys, because we got to start off with a quiz. When do you think medicine started? So think about it for a moment. All right.
What do you mean by medicine?
That's a good question. How do you define medicine? But based on your own personal definition right now, Vern, when do you think medicine began?
I think it was Margaret Mead that said that she considered civilization to start the first time she found a skeleton with a healed femur. And she said that that meant that someone had broken their leg and someone else cared for them, because if you have a broken femur and no one to help, you're prey.
Yeah, you're not long for this world if
So
you can't run.
I say then.
Okay. Who else can I pick on? How about you?
Oh, here. Well, I think even going back to Neanderthal, there were signs that they took care of their people that were injured and things also. So it goes, taking care of the sick goes way back, because if you've got only a small number of people in your tribe, you've got to keep them well so they can do their jobs of providing for the tribe.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let's pick up two more. How about you, ma'am?
I don't know.
That's a good answer. How about you, sir?
Well, I think it's difficult to say when anything started when we don't have written records, which we obviously don't. The clues like what Vern talked about would tell us that at a minimum, way before writing, but I would suggest that we probably, before the emergence of a definite modern anatomical human, even probably, our predecessors had some kind of medicine, because even just finding a berry that makes you feel better could be medicine. So, I mean, I think that it's been as long as human beings or our predecessors could communicate with each other. Pretty quickly, we try to figure out how to fix ourselves.
All right. Basically, you took what Dr. Bohannon said, without having read her book, I'm assuming.
Good. Unfortunately, you're right, but I might now.
So yeah, Dr. Bohannon goes with basically what you said. Way before we were recognizable as Homo sapiens, we were caring for each other, we were discovering things that work as medicine, and particularly, we were probably like our very first physicians, the midwife. Because just in our very nature, we're not going to allow another woman to go through childbirth alone. We are always going to have someone there to guide her through the pain, somebody more experienced to help her with the birth, and help take care of the infant afterwards. So basically, as far as women in medicine, we have to go at least back to the midwife. And she's been around for a very, very long time. The midwife was a healer who provides medical care during pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum care. But she was also the herbalist, and she was the general practitioner. So over more centuries than we can count, the midwife has been respected, revered, and cared for by the community because she knew the local medicines. She knew what herbs to give people to make them feel better. She knew what berries, fruits in the area had different properties. And she could splint a broken leg She could stop bleeding. The midwife became the center of every community, and they learned from each other. They didn't go to a school for midwives. You learned, if you, as a young girl, wanted to become a midwife or were forced into it, you learned under the care of an experienced midwife. And you carried on her traditions. You talked to midwives from other communities. You worked together. In all communities, there's a midwife. Now, is she respected anymore? Not so much. But she's still there. If you remember stories about slavery in this country, who delivered the babies of the slaves? She was probably a slave herself, but she was the midwife that took care of the whole community. So going back through some history, in ancient Egypt, there are some papyrus scrolls going back 3,000 BCE, that's the new way of putting it. A school of medicine at Heliopolis, and the women's school at Sais, where women instructors taught new physicians how to treat women's diseases. So, because only women were allowed to treat other women, yes, we had female doctors back there in Egypt, and they were highly respected at that time. Now, you know it's going downhill from here, then, right? Yeah, this his wise men who were helping him out to find a really good scapegoat. And they focused on Agnes because everybody knew Agnes. So she was accused of creating the storms that kept his young bride from joining him in Scotland. He brought her in, and I will not go through the description of the hell that was wrought upon that poor woman, but the ways that they determined that she was a witch included tortures that you don't even want to think about, including rape. But went well beyond there. So at some point, they asked her through her delirium if she was a witch, and she would say anything to get them to stop. And then they asked her for the names of her friends. And King James gathered up all of them, had them killed, burned at the stake, and part of the reason why he gained the throne of Great Britain was he was such a good Christian that he had destroyed a coven of witches. Therefore, he deserved to be king of Great Britain. Look it up. Okay, a few more. I know I'm probably running over time, so do I have a timekeeper? All right. All right, this is a gentleman, but he plays a big role in bringing women back into medicine. Because in the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, we were not allowed in. At the very most, we were still midwives, and that's only because childbirth is gross and loud and noisy and messy, and the guys didn't want to have anything to do with it. So we still were allowed childbirth, but that was pretty much it. Dr. Semmelweis. Does anybody know the story of Dr. Semmelweis? Okay.
Okay, he's the one that determined that if you washed your hands between visiting patients, you would prevent, you would not spread disease.
Very good.
Didn't believe him, and for a while, but he turns out he's right.
Amazing that. Do you recall how he realized, or what brought it to his attention?
Women having given birth and then dying of diseases, another woman dies of the same disease where the same people didn't know.
Okay. So Dr. Semmelweis worked at the Vienna General Hospital. Big, beautiful, modern hospital for that time period. And there was two sections to the hospital. There was a section for the rich people, and there was a section for everybody else. All right? Section for the rich people, it was all men, with the exception of the people mopping up the floors. All right? Of course, they were women. But the important people were men. And as you said, they went from patient to patient without washing their hands. Same way as a car mechanic will go from one car to another. What does it matter that you got grease on your hands? It's just a car. Well, they looked at the blood on their hands, wiped it off, and kept going. Well, he knew that they had a ridiculously high mortality rate among the women who came there for childbirth. But in the poor section of the hospital, mortality rate was practically non-existent. If you wanted to live through childbirth, you went to the poor section of the hospital because it was run by midwives. And the midwives knew you kept everything clean, not just your hands. You washed the bed sheets, you washed everything, all the time. And Semmelweis, this was ridiculously crazy of him to walk from the big hospital down to the poor section. And to be even worse, he talked to women. Oh my God. And they explained to him what they were doing. And he went, what? Okay. So his internist, he told them, we will wash everything. You will wash your hands with lye. You will their mortality rate got so much better. People were not dying as fast. This is great. He felt like he'd proven it. He got fired. And there is a statue of Semmelweis, I'm not sure exactly where it is, I believe it's in Vienna. There's statue of him and women and children gathered around the base as part of the statue, saying thank you to him for attempting to save their lives.
That also was one of the times that we did actual comparison between mortality rates. And if I remember, he went to another hospital and got the thing down so low that in comparisons, that was big, that began to get people to realize that happened because the difference in mortality rates.
Yeah, so they were keeping statistics at this point. And as much as they'd love to not pay attention to statistics, this was pretty much in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Something was happening here. So while this did not raise the level of respect for midwives as much as it could have, he did bring to light that the midwives knew stuff that maybe everybody should be paying attention to. Okay, moving way on up to the 1800s. Formerly trained male doctors began taking over obstetrics in the United States and in Europe. So 1800s, move over, we got trained doctors, and we're going to take care of everything. Yeah. They also strongly discouraged the use of any lay practitioners. So basically, they kicked out the midwives. Because can't have them in here. They're not educated. They don't know what they're doing. All right, a study by Johns Hopkins in the year 1912 indicated that most American doctors were much less competent than the average midwife. That's Johns Hopkins. That's saying something. However, pressure from doctors caused midwives to be outlawed in many states in the United States. So now they're not just looked down upon as uneducated twits and going to jeopardize your health by them even looking at you. Now they're downright outlawed. This caused a serious increase in infant and maternal mortality. Now we get the nursing schools coming back. You remember Florence Nightingale and several other really important women. Here's our back door back into medicine, the nurse. Except that she was a glorified, I don't know, nanny. She was good at cleaning stuff up, maybe taking a temperature, maybe changing the bed sheets, but that's about all we're going to let her do. And she had to say yes sir, no sir to every doctor. But at least she'd been let back in through the back door. Eventually, you got people like Nightingale who started stomping her feet and talking about hygiene again and cleaning up the blood off the floor and let's make this place clean. So she did a lot of good. They were encouraging us to have hospitals be a clean, safe place again. So we finally got slipping in through the back door. Eventually, you get the midwife back. And what is the current name of midwives?
Doula, nurse midwives.
Doula. Not a doula.
No.
Because doulas, I understand, because
that's
I
true.
misunderstood that for a long time. Doulas are more for emotional support.
Yeah.
But yes, nurse practitioner, midwives. And now nurse practitioners can run their own clinics and see their own patients and prescribe medication, they can write a prescription. It's been a damn long way coming.
APRN.
Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah.
All right, so we got nursing schools allowed back. Elizabeth Blackwell was our first American woman physician. She applied to every medical school that she could find. This was in mid-1800s, and she finally got allowed into a medical school as a joke. As in, we're going to let this girl in, and we're going to prove to all these women that they got no place here. She graduated at the top of her class in 1849.
Does it say what school?
I saw it, but I didn't write it down.
Okay.
I can find it for you.
No, it's okay.
Much more recently is Edith Irby Jones. Anybody know her?
I know the name, but I don't know any details.
If you've ever been through the halls of UAMS, you'll see her picture.
Arkansas.
Yes. She was the first African American admitted to UAMS. And like Miss Blackwell previously, she was driven to become a physician because she was out in the backwoods. She was seeing people dying who could not afford a doctor. And we've already seen what's happened to the midwives. They've been pretty much outlawed. So they're working anyways. They're there because the people in these communities need them, because they can't afford a doctor. They don't got money. And Blackwell, she saw people in her family die unnecessarily. So did Miss Edith Irby Jones. She saw people in her family die unnecessarily, and was determined she was going to become a doctor. So Miss Edith, she enrolled at UAMS in 1948 and graduated with her degree June 16th of 1952. And she became a cardiologist, and eventually she worked strictly with the elderly. Wonderful person with a soul. She had the spirit to never step back and never take no for an answer. So that is just an extremely brief history. I skipped through so many really important women who, once again, would not take no for an answer, and worked even when they were risking their lives because other people felt like they were a danger to their careers. You can't do this because this is a man's job. And you know how crazy this is. Me telling you this is no surprise. Other areas that I didn't even get to touch, but they need to mention, indigenous medicine. Amongst the Native American people, South America and North America, they weren't worried about whether you were a man or a woman. If you were born to heal, then you were born to heal. And that was respected. Is still respected. I watched a video this morning about the Aboriginal people in Australia and New Zealand, that if you were born with the gift of healing, then that is respected and encouraged. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. The video I was watching was a hospital in Perth, Australia, where for no charge, indigenous healers will come to somebody who's having troubles and do spiritual healing techniques on them. Like I said, no charge. And the one doc that they interviewed in this said that he could not vouch for this being actual medicine, but when 18 out of 20 patients are feeling better than they were before the indigenous healer worked on them, there must be something going on. Another word that I learned just recently is curandera. Thank you.
Curandera.
Can you speak to Curanderos?
No, I'm just not pronouncing.
Oh. You know anything?
I mean, it's a Spanish or Latin American word, I mean, Spanish word for healer, female, and that's pretty much all I can think of right now, but it's, you know, traditional, I believe, rather than, you know, formally educated.
So, yeah, Hispanic, but it crosses, you know, the word Hispanic crosses a huge
Yeah.
area of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's traditional healing, herbalism, and some spiritual healing. And these curanderos are very common through Mexico, Mexico, Texas, Florida. They're all over the place, especially all through Central and South America. They're highly respected, and they are doing a job. They are healing people. Now, it's very, very old-fashioned medicine, but they're doing the best they can with what they've got. And they've got patients who love them and trust them. Now, am I going to say this is as good as modern medicine? I don't know. If you got patients who end up happy and healthy afterwards, yeah, it's kind of like bringing up the idea of, and I'll finish it up with this. You've heard of people being cured with a placebo. Okay? Do we have any good scientific explanation for why a person can be cured with a placebo?
The thought process,
Thought process, okay.
because they believed something and consequently it affects their health.
So if we can accidentally cure somebody with a placebo, especially when we're trying to prove that this really expensive drug works, and you should spend lots of money for this, and then the placebo works better. Yeah, there's something to be said for this. So is a placebo any better than some of these folk medicines? Is it the people that are using herbalism now and making people feel better, compare that to the placebo? Can we really say, no, that's bad medicine, you shouldn't be taking that, and yet it has an effect? Lots of questions. All right. Please feel free to look at the books I brought. That's all I've got to say. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, any questions? I don't know if I've got answers, but I'll try.
I don't have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
but my grandmother was a midwife, and the doctors in this rural area, if he knew that there was going to be a really difficult delivery, he wanted her there because she never lost a mother or a baby.
Wow, that's
There
amazing.
we go. That is
I
amazing.
thought he was gonna make her the scapegoat.
Yeah.
He knew.
He probably needed her.
He needed
Yeah.
her.
And like you said, the community trust. She became a nurse. That's how she got started.
That's wonderful. Anybody else have a story or a comment? It doesn't have to be a question. I want to learn from you.
We need to have some way to figure out how to deal with this,
If you're gonna be
statistics of
Oh,
maternal mortality in this state.
In Arkansas.
Yes.
It's awful.
And
I was reading, I don't remember the percentage, but I was reading, I was reading that, X number of women don't even, in Arkansas, don't even see a doctor until
That's
they're.
right, because they don't
Yeah,
have
there's
insurance.
a real high percentage, yeah, that don't until they're birthing.
Right.
Yeah.
you don't have the money to go see a doctor. You sure don't have money to go to a hospital. And So now you're going with absolutely no prenatal
Yeah, no
care.
prenatal care is what I was.
And from what I've seen amongst my students, we've been, I think we're the only hospital, no, sorry, back up. I think we're the only high school in Pulaski County, I'm pretty sure of that, and maybe one of the few high schools in the state of Arkansas that has after-school prenatal classes.
Oh.
North of Little Rock. And, yeah, we were told we were allowed to do this as long as it was after school hours, and we had it on the same days as after-school tutoring. Therefore, the girls could get on the school bus and pretend like they'd been in tutoring. Because we didn't dare let it be known that this girl was pregnant. But yeah, that was the criteria. The only way we were allowed to have prenatal classes is if we did it that way and basically kept it secret. But the school nurses were telling the girls that you could go to Miss Jones and she'll be hosting the prenatal class.
Oh, wow, that's so good.
So yeah, those little girls had absolutely no idea what was about to happen to them.
Probably
And-
know what.
I was gonna say, did they
Well,
know how it happened?
Yeah. Somebody finally tells her she's pregnant and she doesn't even remember how it happened in the first place.
Oh.
Yeah, we had a lot of really rough stories, we were told. But the Baptist nurses with, they used to be called Cherub's Closet. I think it still is. Yeah. They came over and they would talk to the girls, explain to them, show them videos, diagrams on how the baby was going to come out, what the different stages are, what kind of pain relief you could request. And we wanted to make sure that these girls knew what was going to happen to them instead of coming in terrified and in extreme pain and having no idea.
The way you're talking, it sounds like this is not happening. These classes are not happening anymore.
Well, I'm retiring.
Oh.
And
And no one
fortunately,
else to carry it on?
in a way, it was kind of worked out because UAMS is now where all high-risk births are going to happen in Pulaski County. All right? And if you are, yeah, I just found this out this last year. And because all high-risk births are going to happen there, anybody under 18 is considered to be a high-risk birth. And they make it mandatory that the girls go through a prenatal class that they supervise.
Good.
So I feel much better about this. But yeah, I was figuring the class was going to die as soon as I left the building. But it turns out UAMS has already picked up the ball and are running with it, so I feel a lot better about it.
That's great.
Any other comments?
You know, it seems like a reoccurring theme in that story is kind of fights over who gets to practice medicine, who gets credit for it, who gets paid for it. And there's kind of this elbowing out of midwives, for example, when maybe there's money to be made, and then there's, let them back in when that doesn't solve the problem, and it's getting to crisis levels again, or perceived that way.
Yeah, we have to do everything in crisis mode, right?
Yeah, I'm just noticing the parallels with that and the healthcare payment system we have in the United States now, where people don't go to doctors, they do die of preventable things because of the way insurance is set up and how Medicaid, Medicare keep getting cut, and how the cost of care keeps going up back to who gets to practice, who gets to get paid. And so there's kind of a reoccurring theme there that's maybe echoing throughout history of a contest between different types of medicine and,
And it frequently comes back to money.
Oh,
Yeah.
always. One other thing.
Oh, okay.
What's the other one?
The reason we ask you to do that is we record this,
Oh,
and people on the video will never hear you.
okay. All right. The other thing I think people need to realize is there's a difference between nurse midwives and lay midwives. And those are very, very different. I'm sure the outcomes are very different. Being a nurse, I have a prejudice, of course. But I think it's an important distinction to be aware of.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Betsy, I was just wondering, is there no one at North Little Rock who could take this over for you?
My coworker, nurse Fakisha Moore, she's just finishing up her second year as the nursing teacher for us.
Okay.
And she might be taking over it, but since UAMS has got their program going, we're kind of relaxing for a little while. But I know that Fakisha would take it over if the opportunity presented
But the girls
itself.
have to get to UAMS, and would it
Right.
be easier if it were right there where they are?
Right, and Ms. Moore is also a lactation consultant.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, she has taught breastfeeding in the past, and she's a very experienced nurse. So if she has the opportunity, I know she'll take it.
That's good.
All right, anybody else? And no disrespect to nurses at all. I didn't mean any disrespect to nurses, but as midwives became outlawed and shoved away from giving any medical help at all, we finally had the nursing schools, and I thought it was pretty predictable that eventually you would have the nurse midwife. But you're also going to have that lay midwife out in the field, out in the very poorest communities. And she probably would love to have the education, or not. She might feel that that's an infringement on her territory.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Well, thank you for your time and your patience today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. For what it's worth, when I was born, I got to be 11 pounds and quit growing.
Oh.
Doctors were flummoxed.
Oh, my.
And my lowly LPN grandmother went to one of the, she was a new nurse at the time, went to one of the doctors and said, "You have to look at his heart." "Why do I have to look at his heart?" "He's sweaty and cold at the same time, just like all my heart patients are."
Oh.
And that was the first person in a long line of people to save my life, more than likely.
Oh,
Because I had an aortic coarctation that required surgery.
Oh,
So that's my grandmother.
yeah, wow.
We hope you've enjoyed today's meeting. Next month, we need a speaker. Our speaker had to drop out for family reasons. Nothing, it sounds bad. Nothing bad, but for a good thing. It has to be somewhere. So if you have a topic you'd like to speak on, just like Betsy did, let someone know. The Arkansas Society of Freethinkers needs volunteers. We need people to help with graphic design and website development, to write letters, to stop church state violations, to host events like potlucks and book club and the family and child-centered activities. If you have skills or any ideas to contribute, see one of us that's a board member, see somebody that's active in the group, and we will get you something to do. Our calendar is always available on Meetup. You can contact us through info@arfreethinkers.org. If you go to arfreethinkers.org, our calendar is also there. And we're going to go through a few things from the calendar. Monday will be fourth Monday Zoom night. It's a Zoom conversation. On Thursday and every Thursday is Beyond Belief Secular Substance Abuse Recovery. The woman, I think it's entirely online now. This woman is very good at this. She's very good. And we're talking to her about establishing a similar thing for people, perhaps on Wednesdays, for people trying to work their way out of religion or having a problem with it. If you're interested in that, let me know, because as soon as we get a couple of people that want to do that, we'll get that started. Friday, April the 26th, Gina's meet and greet. Gina is in the back. Gina is just having a party. And it's going to be hors d'oeuvres and snacks and drinks and some adult beverages, I think. And it's free, you don't need to bring anything but yourself. So that will be very nice. And as Jerry mentions a lot, he just likes getting together with people that he doesn't have to struggle over religion with. Tuesday, May the 7th is First Tuesday, and that is at American Pie Pizza at the next door, almost next door to the Kroger in Lakewood. And so far, I'm the only person on there. I just noticed this. We get people about a week out, and we just sit and have a slice of pizza and a beer maybe, and try to overthrow the North Little Rock government. And if you are in need of a sticker that has our logo on it, we will have a few available at that day. Sunday, May the 12th, second Sunday, Cantina Communion. This is something that Jim Wensley hosts, and it happens down Highway 5 a little ways, toward Otter Creek.
There are quotation marks around Cantina Communion, by the way.
What exactly is it?
Well, the communion involves tortillas and tequila.
Okay.
Rather than wine and bread, it's tortillas and tequila. So. Monday, May the 13th is second Monday Zoom night. And that brings us up to Sunday, May the 19th, which will be our next monthly meeting here. And we are looking for a speaker for that, so let us know. And with that, I will say, before you leave, introduce yourself to some new people, have a cookie, and make plans to come back next month. And Chris Barecki has a couple of things he would like to give you. Come on, Chris.
Thank you, Bernard. I think we mentioned this in last month's meeting, but the Secular Student Alliance, a national organization for college students, they're having their national conference here in Little Rock in June. So starting, I think it starts on June 13th, Friday, and so the 14th, 15th, mark that on your calendars. It's really worth going to a national conference that's literally at UALR. It's right down the road from here. Easy to get to, you don't have to even get on an airplane. So check out, Google that, look it up, register if you can, and attend the Secular Student Alliance. We're going to be there. We need helpers if you'd like to, cover the table with us, if you'd like to, get in with us as an exhibitor. We're going to be there, and like everybody to attend that. Also, some kind of folks from the UU stopped by and let me know that there is a kids summer camp going on July 8th through 12th. It's a couple of pamphlets in the back. This is essentially an opportunity for your kid to meet people from all different faith traditions. Christian, Muslim, Jewish, atheist, agnostic, every flavor that you can imagine. You can get them exposure through this camp, and there are going to be fun activities, team building, everything else. A lot of learning about each other. And it is possible and it is typical to go through your entire life in Arkansas without meeting someone else from another faith tradition. I think I met my first Jewish person in my 20s. When did I meet? I'm not even sure about Buddhists or Muslims. But I've eventually got around to meeting people, but it doesn't happen on its own. So this is a great opportunity, and I'm going to go ahead and promote this through our channels. If you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, and so forth, let them know. Let them know that this is an educational opportunity that could really change their lives. So, two things. In June, we've got the Secular Student Alliance in mid-June, and early mid-July, we've got this going on here at the UU. Both easy driving distance, so no excuses. Well, thank you everybody for coming out. We've got a bunch of snacks back there that aren't going to eat themselves, so I'm relying on you. And we'll see y'all next month, same place.